Hello and welcome everybody. Episode number 18 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. My name is Jim, and I got to tell you, I'm a little fired up today because this week, Jake, has been crazy with all of this Fernando Tatis hitting a grand slam talk. I'll give my opinion on it in a second. I'm very passionate about this, actually, because I discussed this a couple of weeks ago, how hard hitting is nowadays. And a guy is getting railed on by some, not a huge segment of the baseball population. But there's some people out there that didn't really like that he hit a grand slam on 3-0 with his team up 10-3. And I just want to point out to everybody that the Phillies were up 7-0 against us, the Blue Jays, a couple of days ago. We're recording this on a Sunday, so today's Monday, so yesterday. And the Phillies lost that game. It was a Thursday doubleheader. They lost it, too. They were up 7-0, 7-inning game. The Blue Jays came back and won, so no lead is safe. And by the way, when Fernando Tatis, Jake, hit that home run, the Padres were up, what? Just by 7 runs. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, come on. You know what? Coach your pitching staff up, right? Get them to throw strikes, get ahead in the count, and then that stuff's not going to happen. So, yes, hitting is too hard to take pitches. And quite honestly, players get paid with statistics. Yeah. I mean, this is his job. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a big contract yet.
No.
He's trying to do whatever he can to make himself valuable on the free agent market in a few years, right? So he just put 4 RBIs in his pocket this season. He put another home run tallied up this season. Hey, man, it's a business. Baseball isn't it's not a, hey, everybody looks like these guys are just playing a game on TV. These guys, there's a few, top percentage of guys that make a lot of money and live very easily. But there's a large percentage of guys that are just, they're trying to make a roster spot. They're trying to set up their family. They don't have anything to fall back on. If they don't make it in baseball and they don't make enough money for the rest of their lives, then it's going to be rough sailing. And to give away at bats when you've worked your butt off to get to an advantageous count, I think is ridiculous. That's some kind. Now, if they're stealing bases up by 7 and he's wheeling, runners from second base on close plays, I actually think that's fine too. Guys are, as a hitter, if I get a base hit and a runner's in scoring position and the third base coach holds him up because we're up 7, there's money. That's money in my pocket. Hey, what if I ended up with 99 RBIs that year? Yeah. And I could have had 100 or whatever. So, yeah, I was a little bit sore about the uproar of whatever it was. And I think it was probably just the media publicizing Woodward's reaction, more than anything else. And the media brought it up. I think if that didn't happen, nobody would even care.
Yeah, the era of the participation trophy has come back to rear its ugly head once again. That was one of my takes of it, is that have we become so soft that when you're up 10-3 and a guy on a pitch that's on the outer third of the plate goes the other way, and by the way, hits it about 7 rows deep into the seats, we're getting upset about that. And
he didn't flaunt it. He didn't flip his bat and kiss the sky. And,
right.
He just, thank you very much. Hit a line drive to right field. Yeah, went out of the park.
I'm very passionate about this, and here's why. Because I've said this before, our society is really getting soft, and I think it's starting to really seep its way into sports. And this was a classic case of it with a team up 10-3. Again, like I said, no lead is safe, and we can debate that for years on years end. But, gosh, I'll tell you what. If a guy can't make a pitch on 3-0, in a blowout type situation, we can call that a blowout, 7 runs, it's a blowout. If a guy on the mound can't make a good pitch in that situation and get Tatis out, then how is he going to get a guy out when the ballpark's filled with 45,000 plus in a playoff situation in, say, runners at second and third or the bases loaded? I think my whole point to this is that when there's blowouts like this, it really reveals the character of players on both sides, pitchers and hitters. And it sometimes could help determine a job for a guy. And you just mentioned how guys get paid based off their statistics. And call it what you want, you're getting better statistics when you score runs or when you steal bases or when you hit a grand slam. A lot of times the determining factor in getting a roster spot on a postseason team or getting your job secured, getting a job or getting signed or not getting traded depends on these statistics and these analytical statistics. And without rambling on here, I feel that teams don't really take into account the blowout situations. They see the statistics. I mean, we mentioned Charlie Blackmon's stats last week on the episode, and we talked about that. Did we ever talk about times he hit a home run or stole a base or scored a run when it was a blowout situation? No. So we're just getting soft. It's ridiculous. We're just getting soft as a society. It's unbelievable to me.
And there's ways to, dwindle those down or funnel those a little bit into, how often does his home run come, when his team is up by 3 runs in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that do hit home runs in non-pressure situation versus guys that do. And they do have stats on that now, but most people don't care.
Yeah.
When they're taking stats from a 2 and 3 year period, they're looking at on-base percentage, looking at slugging, OPS, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He just got, an OPS, of 4,000 on that home run. Like, that's going to boost a lot of stuff, right? That's going to help him out.
Yeah. I wonder what the exit velocity was of that home run as well. Oh, it's ridiculous. I was very and then he had to come out and apologize. Oh, my God. Can you imagine back in the day, I don't know, Manny Ramirez making him apologize for hitting a grand slam up 10-3. He'd laugh in your face. Right? Am I right? I mean,
absolutely right. Nobody would ask that.
Well, the voice you hear along with me is renowned hitting instructor, professional evaluator, my former coach, friend and co-host Jake Epstein, who has had a busy weekend at the old academy at the Lab BCS there in Texas.
Yes, sir. We've been we had to do this on Sunday. It's been so busy. So yeah, people are getting ready for fall ball now, right? The season never ends down here in Texas. So it's good. I actually got to see a couple of my longtime online academy members came in from Georgia, from Northwest Georgia. I've known them, and it was so great because Ryan, the dad, came to certification in 2017, and we looked at his son. We always look at people's clips, at certification training. Like, hey, bring your clips. Let's break them down, and what would we do, and what drills would we use, and how would we approach this, as an instructor to fix this problem. And he actually had his son, who's now 13, not even 13 yet. He had his swings, and he had like the worst bat drag and barrel dump you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And that little turkey, he's not little anymore, but he's almost 13. He hit a ball 80. Did he hit it 80? He hit a ball 86 miles an hour today on the hit tracks.
Wow.
With a drop 5, like not a wood bat, but that was a record for a 7th grader that we've had in the lab so far, and we've had some big 7th graders.
Drop 5, so it was what?
It was a 32-27.
32-27. Okay.
Yeah, and so they're not BB Core certified, so they got more pop than like a high school bat, high school BB Core bat. But
nevertheless,
it was good. He came in at 79. 79 his first day, and today we made adjustments. He was here for 5 lessons over 3 days, and today he hit 86 was his high. He hit 84, and we were like so fired up. And then on a line drive to right field, he's a very good opposite field hitter. And then all of a sudden he hit 86 like 20 minutes later, and I had to put it on the board. It was so good.
What was his bat speed? What was his bat speed like?
His bat speed, I'd have to go back and look at the blast. It was probably around 60.
Okay. Wow.
Probably around
60,
around 60.
86.
For his age, that's pretty darn good. Yeah.
Big,
now, if that was BB Core, a BB Core bat, a high school certified bat, and he had 60-mile-an-hour bat speed, you're probably hitting at about 75 miles an hour. So you can see there's like a 10-mile-an-hour in those quote-unquote more juiced bats that you can still use it.
Yeah.
Before high school.
What's his best attribute offensively in terms of what he does fundamentally really well that got him to that point? I'm curious.
Yeah. No. His extension is really good. Okay. So he stays through pitches. Like he likes to hit the ball to right center. That's kind of his left center to right center. But when he's early, has tendency to be early, he saves the swing. So he has really good top hand extension at the end of his swing. That's not too high. Some people will extend too high or too low with it. It keeps him on plane really well. So I would say that, and and as a human, the ability to make adjustments.
Yeah.
We would say one thing, and within 2 or 3 swings, he could make that adjustment. Now, he still has to consciously think about that adjustment, but he has the control over his body to do that. And that's very difficult for young players.
Yeah. Power V, baby, right?
Yes, he definitely gets through stuff. So Tatis style.
Yes.
Without the hair.
Yeah. Not many people have the hair of Fernando Tatis. It's
pretty good.
He's got quite the locks, yeah. Hey, by the way, and if you don't know what Power V means, we talked about it last week on our Hitting Terms episode, so be sure to check that out. Like and subscribe to the podcast. We're on social media, at Epstein Hitting, at Jim Tara, and, of course, our email, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com, if you want to send us your questions or topic ideas as well. Today, episode 18, we're talking about pregame approaches in our player development series. This is volume 2. So let's chat up about our topic a little bit here. How much of the act, Ep, has of properly preparing pregame offensively for teams and for players, how has that changed over the years? We've discussed so many times when you were in clubhouses with your dad, and even in the early 90s, going back to that time, how things have really changed. We said last week, hitting terms weren't, when your dad was playing, they weren't a thing. Now they are. And you have to sort of understand them terminology-wise to understand who you are as a hitter. So how has the pregame approach changed and evolved over the years, you think?
It depends on the level, for sure. I mean, I remember playing high school baseball, and we would show up 20 minutes before the game, play catch, hit 10 balls into a screen, and go out and play. At higher levels, I think if we kind of go more into the professional level and pregame, I think the players of my dad's generation, obviously in the 60s and 70s, and then probably all the way up to about 2000 or so, maybe up to 1990. Mm-hmm. It was conversation. It was, hey, who are we facing today? Oh, we're facing, Jim Palmer.
Yeah.
Okay, Palmer had, he had good stuff the last time we faced him. So you're seeing the same guy, all year long, right? Mm-hmm. Especially then, there wasn't 5 days rest. So they're seeing Palmer a lot.
There wasn't 5 days rest, and they were coming off throwing 100-plus pitches over almost every start, right?
All the time, yeah. So, they would have a conversation, and then it was, how did he pitch me? What was his strategy to get me out? Or maybe he didn't get me out, right? What was his strategy, and then what was my strategy that won that battle, right? Or won that game war, if you will. I got, 2 hits out of 3 at-bats, something like that. Is he going to do something different, right? And then you would visualize him, right? You could close your eyes and you could kind of see Jim Palmer on the mound, and you could see him go through his windup and where he delivered the ball, and you use that, that mental image that you could draw from your memory. Well, nowadays it's, who am I facing? I'm just going to pull up video, and I have video from behind home plate. I have video from behind the center field camera, so I could see how they're doing. Mm-hmm. And it's now all of a sudden that pregame approach comes to life on the screen. So guys spend so much time on their iPads, right, or the computers in the clubhouse, and that's been really tamed down this year. I don't think guys can do that this season. They can't go into the clubhouse and watch their previous at-bats. They can only watch information that was preloaded on their Surface Pro or whatever they have in the dugout. But, like JD Martinez was a guy, he would go watch his at-bat, especially when he's DHing. He would have his first at-bat. He'd go watch, how did this guy throw me? Mm-hmm. Was it effective? How's his ball moving? Boom. And then he would change his approach for the next, the next at-bat. So, that information pregame is so important for players. Right. To, prepare for the moment. Like I said, you would prepare for your job. If you had a big meeting, you would prepare for it. If you had a presentation you had to give to make a sale, you would prepare for that. These players are doing the same things. They have to prepare to be successful. You could even throw in win reality, right? You can throw in virtual reality for pregame approaches, and sit and put the goggles on and face, Zach Greinke or whoever you're facing that day and see 50 of his pitches before you even go out to stretch.
Yeah, and you can get in your stance and almost try to get your timing down as you would in the on-deck circle when you do have those virtual reality goggles.
and that's what we do that here at the lab every week. It's hey, get your timing. When are you moving? I have big screens set up so I can see what the player's seeing in the goggles.
Yeah. And
I can see that player when they start their rhythm and when they start to move, and I can be in their ear. You're moving too late.
Right.
You're not getting your foot down in time. Make sure you're. So it's timing and it's pitch recognition with a purpose, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, and it's something that we didn't have when we played, and I think it helps a player better determine what kind of timing step they want to have: big leg kick, a drag, a float, whatever you want to call it, regular step, whatever. When you have that virtual reality, rather than just kind of looking at the wall, trying to picture in your head the pitcher coming home while you're also trying to get comfortable feeling your stride. So that the virtual reality has, in a way, been sort of a game changer, right?
It has. And I used to try to get so many players. And when I was at Mizzou, we did a ton of stand-ins. When pitchers were throwing bullpens, I'd have my hitters in there as much as possible, just figuring out their rhythm and stride and seeing as many pitches as possible coming at them at velocity. So to be able to do that, in the clubhouse in a 10 by 10 square, is pretty advantageous if the player uses it. And we have players here, and I'm like, hey, let's jump in the VR, and they're like, I'm not really into that. Wow. High school guys, and I'm like, okay, that's your bad, but
yeah.
Cody Bellinger does it before every game, but whatever.
I would too. I would do it before every game too. I'm not big on the data part in regards to just looking at a bunch of numbers that are in front of me, because I like to keep things simple, and it's just the way my brain operates. I don't want to get inundated with too many numbers. But gosh, if I had that virtual reality at my disposal, I'd be probably studying, say, whoever, Zach Greinke you mentioned. I'd be studying him. I'd be doing my timing, getting my timing down at least for a half hour prior to actually going in the batting cage and prior to BP. So then I have that in my head going into all of my pregame routines. Is that kind of the correct approach to do the virtual reality part?
For pregame stuff, it is.
Yeah.
It depends. At the younger ages, we're doing it for just seeing pitches, right? Seeing velocity, seeing break, knowing where the strike zone is. Where was that pitch in the strike zone? When did you make up your mind whether or not that pitch was going to be a strike? So there's training aspects that we do with the younger players. Pregame aspects is more of, the big league programs for that.
Yeah.
For Win Reality. I mean, they actually have all the pro players in there. Like, we don't have access to that being a facility. Well, we could have access for that, but we don't have the funds to have access to that. There's a huge licensing, deal that goes with that.
But nevertheless, it's still invaluable.
It is, and it is for our guys training, and that's the biggest thing that we notice is when do players start their movements. And for instance, that kid from Georgia that was in town, he has like a jab step, right, with his stride where he brings his front foot back. And so I watched some game film of him, and it was so fast and rushed and not good. And I said, we're going to do a ton of reps off the machine. I'm going to dial that machine up a little bit faster than you're used to. And you got to see if you can figure out when to start that load. And so it took him probably a couple hours off that machine, maybe an hour and a half off the machine over 2 days. And all of a sudden that timing was locked in.
Yeah.
But do you know how long that would have taken him in games to figure out? He in a couple hours, he saw 300 pitches, 400 pitches in games. I mean, how often do you see 300 game speed pitches? I mean, that's going to take you like a season. So it was pretty cool for him to make that. And then as soon as he was able to control that early slow stride, all of a sudden the consistency of him finding the barrel was like 200 to 300% greater. And then all of a sudden the exit velocity stuff went up too.
Yeah, and you're picking up the baseball too. You're getting a chance when you watch that pitcher studying where their release point might be.
Yeah, you just have to. I mean, every coach says you got to get your foot down on time.
Yeah.
What is on time? And for us, we preach, Matt and I both here at the lab, we're big on, you got to get your foot down on time, but you got to get going in time.
Yeah.
You got to get started. So as early and as slow as you can do it, Not everybody's the same.
Yeah.
But the earliest and slowest you can do it and control it, the better hitter you're going to be. And that's what we were talking off air before we started about who was the guy that hit the grand slam for the Padres? Was it
Cronenworth. Jake Cronenworth.
Cronenworth.
Last night he hit it, which would be Saturday, August 22nd.
Yeah, I mean, what a pretty swing he has. And you said you had watched him, growing up in Florida and seen him, probably when he was in the minor leagues with the Rays. But this was the first I had seen of him. And I watched his swing over like 3 or 4 times and watched how slow and rhythmic he controlled his stride. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this guy could stick around for a little while because he really has good control. He has good mechanics too, but he has very good control over what he's seeing.
Yeah. You mentioned high school. Let's circle back to that for a second. Obviously, with high school at that level, and it's evolved and it's tried to over the years, but it still lacks the funding and the resources. You work with high school kids. You just mentioned that, how they kind of turn away from the virtual reality, which I don't get it, kids, but okay. But what's the best way to prepare for a game offensively at the high school level with those limited resources in the pregame?
Well, we try to do it the day before at the lab. So, I can't say, at practice, what we try to do for those guys is we try to get them to see velocity before the game. So, if they're going to face somebody, hey, are we facing a regular guy or are we facing a dude, and they know who they're facing, hey, we're facing this school and they got a guy that's a A&M commit or whatever it is, and he throws 93, so like, okay, so we'll set up the machines accordingly to see speed. So, and actually the local or two of the local high schools that I know pretty well here in College Station do a good job. They have the big hack attacks and they try to run that out there. So I think seeing velocity and speed from a similar release point is really, really important for those guys to prepare for that game. I think right before the game, they need to stick with a routine, whatever their routine is. If they do some top hand drills, they do some bottom hand, they do, maybe some no legs drills, or maybe they take full swings. I know we're going to cover BP routines, in a separate episode, but which is going to be awesome. But, having them stay comfortable and stick to that pregame routine, I think is really important. But I think prior to seeing some velocity is really, really important. And break. So, and breaking balls that actually break, not nasty hangers, but, I'll set up a machine throwing, 90 that's, darting a little bit and be like, all right, you got within 3 pitches, you got to hit one of these. You got to barrel one of them. I don't care if you foul off a couple or swing and miss a couple, you got to barrel one of them. And then after 3 pitches, then we'll go in and hit breaking balls. I'll say, okay, now you got 2 strikes. You got to protect this breaking ball, working low and away. Don't lunge. Try to stay behind it. Don't get beat. See it as long as you can, and then okay, you get 3 pitches there, and then we'll bounce back to velocity. So getting them to be able to adjust to different speeds. I mean, kids, after 15 pitches, they can kind of figure out the speed of it's like the driving range. After like 5 or 6 shanks, I'm going to figure out, right, the iron. Yeah. But I don't always get 5 or 6 shots to, hit a good one in competition. It's the same thing here. You have to be unpredictable sometimes and create almost chaos with training, or it becomes a little bit too, monotonous to the player.
Yeah, speaking of shanks, how about Rory McIlroy? Ooh, rough start to.
I did not see it. With the Travelers or what?
The Travelers, rough start. Yeah. He's been over par. I think out of his first 7 holes, I think 4 out of the 7. Yeah, he's had a rough. Tiger Woods is doing pretty well though.
I hope he makes the next cut of the playoffs. That'd be a bummer if Rory's not in there.
Yeah, I saw the numbers yesterday, and I said to myself, "Oh my, he might not make the next cut." Let's shift gears though to college here. When I was in college, I was just giving a simple scouting report on the pitcher, and that's it. I mean, no substance to it, and quite frankly, I didn't know how to decipher that plan and to develop an approach. I'd like to think that's changed somewhat today. I know that there's subscriptions out there at the collegiate level to teams that could sign up and they could watch various videos and on hitters and pitchers. But I don't know. In some places, I'd be remiss not to believe it hasn't, I guess. As a hitting coach in the SEC, how do you prepare your meetings, and how did you get those hitters to buy in to what you were saying in those hitters' meetings?
Yeah, it depended on what was happening. I took a lot of pride in my reports and what I presented to players, and they constantly adapted depending on the players that I had and how they were feeling at the time, right? Because these are 18 to 22-year-old young men, right, that can be bombarded with too much information. So I created, my reports were spot on in the fact that, a lot of reports through college baseball is typically this. You pick up the phone and you call your buddy at Northwest Louisiana State who just played LSU. Yeah. And you say, hey, do you have some numbers, from the gun, right? How does this guy? Well, he throws fastball, slider, blah, blah, blah. And you get a report, from your buddy, and then you tweak it and you print it out. So I didn't have any buddies because I was new. No, we had guys that would share. People always shared. Mm-hmm. But I would actually take TrackMan data once we got into SEC stuff, and I could see on TrackMan, every pitch that they threw. So I could compile stats when the count was this and that. I could log into TrackMan and create a filter. In 1-0 counts, he threw this percentage of fastballs. In 2-1 counts, he threw this percentage, so on and so forth. So I'd make kind of like a heat map of, different counts. Look, when this guy, when you get him to 1-0, right, that's where we have to attack. Or if you get him to 2-1, that's where we have to attack. If you get to 1-1, he really mixes well. Like 1-1, you're going to have to react or anticipate based on what you want and lay off anything else. So sure. I would create those so that a player could come up and be like, okay, how does he pitch? And then I would break it up between left-handers and right-handers, right? Because guys pitch left-handers different than right-handers. And then I would break it up to middle of the order guys, because a lot of times you'll throw different pitches to middle of the order guys. So I would have those subsets for all my guys, which was a lot of information. And I would only share certain information with certain players. So they didn't have access. My number 3 hitter didn't have access to like what the number 8 hitter was going to get, because he doesn't need to filter through that. Yeah. And then what I would do is I would pull video. So I would pull video of that guy pitching. So from behind home plate, or from behind, if we had it from behind home plate, but usually it was behind center field, right? Yeah. And just to get an idea of, here's his release point and here's the movement he has on his pitches, right? Like here's his fastball. You can see it's straight as a string, right? He throws a 4-seamer. Okay, there's not going to be much movement after he releases it, like pick the channel and attack it. Or, what his curveball is more of a downer. So we got to make sure if you're picking up curveball, it's got to start at your neck or your chest to be a strike, right? Or something like that. So they would know the shape. Yeah, they would know the shape of the pitches that they were going to get. And then I would usually finish up with that hitter getting his – no, I'll find a cleaner version. Getting lit up, right? Like, the pitcher giving up some home runs or doubles. And I would make a montage of him throwing pitches in the strike zone and guys just teeing off, so that my guys are like, all right, let's get this guy. They get kind of pumped up, and then boom, we go out to play the game. So I would like to do the meeting after batting practice and, before the game, after everybody kind of gets changed into their uniform and stuff and grab something to eat. And then we'd have the meeting and then boom, let's go out and play. Yeah. So everybody has their own right or wrong. I don't know if that was good or not, but my guys liked it. I did have to dwindle it down because I was giving them too much information in the beginning. And so I kind of learned from that, hey, they would look at it and be like, that's too much, Ep, and be like, all right, here's yours. This is all you need to know. And, they'd be like, all right, that's good. I can run with that. I can think of those, 1 or 2 things. I don't need to know what, he throws in a 3-1 count. I'm not going to remember that. But I can remember that when I'm ahead in the count, he'll throw 65% fastballs. Really quick, how did you make for coaches out there who don't know how to do it, I guess, and aren't as computer savvy, how did you make your heat maps? It was just in Excel, so I would just do it by counts. Okay. I didn't get as crazy as like location. I think TrackMan, you can actually print out a heat map based on what that pitcher's tendencies are. It was more of a scatter plot versus a heat map, and you could just print that out, but you couldn't filter it as much as possible. It was just, here's all his fastballs. Yeah. Here's all his breaking balls.
So you didn't have a strike zone that you typed up.
I did not.
Where you had
no,
certain little boxes that would
mine
have
was
the average,
mine was count based. Like count based, you're going to have this percentage of the time you're going to see fastballs, this percentage of times you're going to see off speeds.
Yeah.
And if you're a middle of the order hitter, you're going to see more changeups than breaking balls, things like that.
Okay.
So there was just a basic Excel. I would turn whatever values into like charts.
Okay, makes sense. All right,
I'm not smart enough for anything else.
We'll shift gears and discuss pregame approaches for hitters at the professional level next. But first, let's take a time out and discuss the online hitting certification courses coming up this fall. They are coming up in October 24th to the 25th at the Lab BCS in College Station, Texas.
Yeah, so we do, I've done certification for 18 straight years now, 17 straight years. So we're going to give it a go. I've had a lot of interest, people asking, hey man, are we going to do certification again this fall? With people traveling and whatnot, it makes it a little dicier. But I launched it, hopefully if life's good in October. The weather will be good down here in Texas, and we have all the technology. It'll be an awesome training because we got, more technology than even the last one I had where we had, the KVS and rep. So this one will be way, way better than that one just because we have a lot more room. We got the hit tracks now. So it'll be a good time. So usually we have about 20 guys and maybe half of them are returners. A lot of people will come back every other year, every third year to kind of refresh and just catch up and pick up something new and some new technology. And then half will be, new guys that really haven't been exposed to it. So looking forward to that. They're very, very long, intense trainings. They're a lot of fun, but they're, it's 8 hours a day. We take breaks and have a lunch break and whatnot with, everything we got, man. I mean, I teach them the drills. I teach them why we do certain drills based on what we see on the screen. What's a player's issue? Oh, you have this issue we're seeing on the screen. What does that lead to in a game? Okay, it leads to weak fly balls to the opposite field. Okay, what drill are we going to do to fix that? Okay, well, this guy's got two issues. Which one are we going to address first? And anyway, we really get into it. I get to meet some really great people and some really, really bright hitting minds that are out there that, a lot of the drills that we do come from them, and the stuff that they bring to the table. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah, so log on for more information, how to sign up, EpsteinHitting.com, and visit the Epstein Hitting Online Academy Facebook page as well. By the way, if people, that weekend, again, October 24th to the 25th, if people, and email us this if you'd like, or reach out to us, however, social media, whatever. If people would like, we can even maybe do, a live episode of the Lab. Epstein Hitting Podcast right there in the actual lab.
Which would be awesome, but it'll probably have to be taped because...
Well, be taped, right. I'd be live.
We're in the...
With a live studio audience.
Sticks. Well, I know, but we're in the sticks, man. With no high-speed internet out there.
Yeah.
It's the sticks.
Well, we wouldn't.
No, it's like the.
We wouldn't really need the internet. We would just need a computer, our microphone.
We got a hotspot. We got a high-powered hotspot. We're golden. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We live studio audience.
No cable. Fiber optic heading out. We're like 3 miles from the highway, and for some reason on that side of the highway, they just haven't brought the high-speed internet yet. But maybe next year.
Yeah. All right, good stuff.
What are we talking about right now?
We were talking
high-speed internet.
We were talking about doing a version or an episode of the Lab in front of a live studio audience, quote unquote.
I know, I like it. Maybe get people to clap. Be awesome.
Yeah. Laugh
at my jokes.
I laugh at your jokes.
Well, I know, but we need more than one, Jimmy.
I chuckle at your jokes. All right, let's shift gears here. And discuss our pregame approaches for hitters at the professional level. Barry Bonds once said that you can do as many drills as you want. I wrote this quote down. But you have to have an approach and understand the strike zone. And if hitters don't, I don't care what level you're playing at. If hitters don't understand the strike zone, then you are SOL.
Got that right. Approach is, what is your plan? What do you want to do each and every at bat? What am I doing here? Now, that changes to, hey, it could be changed with the situation, right? Like this guy's going to throw me middle away. maybe there's a runner on first base. I'm a left-handed hitter. He doesn't want to give me anything to hit in the hole. Maybe he's going to throw me hard stuff away, right?
Yeah.
That would be smart pitching. So I'm going to be like, okay, now I'm understanding the strike zone. I know, I've been doing my pitch recognition. I've been working on hitting balls the other way. I'm going to keep my front shoulder in. I'm going to keep my hands back a little longer. I'm going to let that ball travel. And whatever my cue is, I'm going to shoot that ball, into left center field, whatever it might be, the opposite field. So, that's the approach. It's not just getting up to the box, looking out at the pitcher and saying, okay, I'm going to swing at a strike.
Right.
It's not about that. You have to know the situation, know what pitch. Hey, I'm looking for a fastball. I need to be able to, lay off anything soft early in the count. I'm looking middle in because this guy just buzzsawed me the last time up and he thinks he can get in there again. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and look in there. And then if something is on the outer part of the strike zone, then I can take it so I don't give away an at bat. And that's, that's the mental plan. That's the approach. What am I trying to do against this pitcher? Maybe there's a pitcher that, it's a team approach. We need to get this guy. I mean, this doesn't happen much in the big leagues anymore because guys come out of the bullpen in the fourth inning, so getting a pitch count up. Yeah. But maybe it's like, all right, we got to get into their bullpen. Their Friday night starter he throws 95, 96. He's a big horse. He's really only like a 4-inning guy if we can get him to, 90 pitches or so. Let's make sure we're not having one pitch at bats. Make this guy work because the guy coming out of the bullpen is substandard. Sometimes it's just the opposite. We went in and played Arkansas, and it was like everybody they ran out of the bullpen was 95 to 97 with movement. So it's like, all right, let's get this guy. We ain't going to get the guys in the bullpen.
Right, yeah.
So, those approaches, there's team approaches, the managerial approach, and then there's, players have to know what they're good at, and they have to be able to stick to that plan and not be – we talked about players that, get them all set up with the right plan, the right approach. Hey, this guy's a right-handed hitter, a right-handed pitcher. You're a left-handed hitter. You're a power hitter. You're the best dang player in the conference. You're seeing 3 changeups for every fastball. All right, look for those changeups. And then that player would go out and take every changeup down the middle and then swing at a high fastball for strike 3. And it's like, what happened to he didn't stick to his approach, right? And you have to have that trust as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned a few weeks back, and we're going to talk about and dedicate a whole episode to this, about robo-strike zones and understanding the strike zone through that and how hitting is already hard enough. Maybe going to a robotic-type strike zone may actually benefit the hitters a little bit more because sometimes all umpires' strike zones are a little bit different. One guy may give the corners, one guy maybe north and south, maybe one guy has a very small strike zone and is more pitcher-friendly. But I think also, on the flip side of that, there's plenty of information out there now about umpires, even if at the minor league level, because you see the same guys rotating in and out of whatever series you're playing, that there's really no excuse not to know the strike zone and blame it on the umpire's zone of being too pitcher-friendly or whatever whatever the case may be. There's no excuse for that anymore because of all the information that's out there now, even on umpires.
Yeah, unless Angel Hernandez is back there, and then you can just throw it all out the window.
Oh.
What was that one? He must have been asleep the other night. That pitch right down the middle.
Yes.
I mean, it split a dime on the middle of the plate, top of the thighs.
Yes.
It was in Kansas City. It was in Kansas City. I think he fell asleep back there.
I think, and he was so confident when he popped up from his crouch. He was so confident in knowing that it was a ball.
Right. He's always confident. Yeah. And you can know that. I think you got to be careful with it. I think that comes into play when there's 2 strikes. Mm-hmm. There's 2 strikes. All right, this guy always gives an extra ball off the plate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get beat out there. If I'm going to cheat middle away, I'm going to take away ball 6.5 out there. I'm not going to hit. If he throws me a fastball inside, I'm going to lose. He's going to beat me, but I know 3 out of 4 times he's going to try to get me out on that outer channel. I'm going to take that away. So that's knowing the approach, could be knowing the strike zone of an umpire. I don't know why. Maybe I'm goofy, but I like the idea of a whatever robotic zone or a strike zone. That's what it is. You can set the parameters. I did see some crazy stuff in the Arizona Fall League, when they were testing it out on balls that, were like in the dirt almost, that maybe clipped the bottom of the strike zone heading down, at the front knee, and it wasn't hittable. And I get that, but there's an algorithm to get rid of that, like, to fix it. So I think that would make the game standardized a little bit more, less human error. Maybe people like human error.
Yeah.
I don't like the catching that's going on. We talked about that. It looks ugly. And it's umpires are all over the place. I mean, as many people are getting strikes, on borderline pitches because they're moving their gloves so much back into the zone.
Yeah.
And the umpire can't really tell where he's catching it.
Yeah.
They're also losing strikes because it looks so bad that the umpire really doesn't know where that ball came in. Like maybe it was a strike. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a weird thing that, everyone's trying to steal extra strikes.
Yeah.
And I think a consistent strike zone helps with that. I mean, we have video replay on every other piece. Was it fair? Was it foul? Did he beat the throw? Right? Was the ball in the mitt before the foot was on the base? Mm-hmm. I think that having that strike zone consistent.
I'm with you.
I think it's fine, and depending on how they do it, that makes a sound, or the umpire, it makes a sound in the umpire's ear, and the umpire says something. I don't know.
I mean,
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Umpires always say that they don't get fooled at all by the framing aspect of it. Oh, come on.
And we're totally seeing that now, aren't we?
Come on. Yeah. Of course you
Maybe
are.
we didn't before, but there's so much movement now. Right.
That's the point of framing.
If I saw that much movement, I don't even think I would call a strike. I'd be like, I don't even know where that ball was.
Yeah. Well, Fernandez did that the other night.
Yeah. And he didn't have to move his glove.
Yeah. When you talk about cage work, how do you develop a plan overall, but also based off the results from the previous night or nights, as it were?
Yeah, you always have different feels. I'm feeling really good at the plate. I'm going to do the exact same thing, mm-hmm. right? I've been running through this. I've been hitting the ball great, and I've been doing more top hand work the past week. I'm going to keep doing that, Or maybe I need more top hand work because I've been filleting balls the other way, and it's getting late in the season. The bat head's kind of dragging through a little bit, Or maybe I need to use my legs more. I'm going to do more middle in pitches, mm-hmm. Or maybe I need to use my hands more. So I think there's different options based on how a player feels, and where they are. And if you're going pretty good, then you just kind of stick with your routine. If we look at like Bryce Harper's got a routine, I think it's 10 top hand, 10 bottom hand, 10 two hand on a knee or something like that. And then he takes some the other way and then he goes. And we'll talk about that, I think, in further episodes. But, if you look at Giancarlo Stanton's first couple rounds of BP, what he does. Yeah. It's very different than what most people do, and that's nothing. So a good buddy of mine, he was my college roommate, PJ Pilatera. He's the hitting coach for the Yankees. He's the assistant hitting coach for the Yankees, and I went and saw him a couple years ago, and we were catching up at Yankee Stadium. And I'll tell you what, as soon as round one was over, or group two or whatever Stanton was, he's like, I got to go. The big guy's going to want more swings. Yeah. I mean, that guy takes BP on the field, and he takes 3 times those many swings between regular BP and when the game starts.
Sure.
Because guys have their own idea of what works for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important part is knowing your swing, knowing how to adjust your swing, mm-hmm. and then working out all those different corners and parts of the strike zone that might give you difficulty.
Idea I have here. Don't laugh at me. It's kind of stupid, but and whatever. If people want to laugh and send their...
I'm laughing already.
If they want to send their hate mail, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. The virtual reality goggles, you set up a tee in the cage, pregame, put on the virtual reality goggles, get your timing down with that pitcher that night or whatever the case may be, and you go through the stride and everything, and then you actually hit the baseball as if the pitch is coming home from the virtual reality that you're seeing in your goggles. Now, the reason I mentioned that idea is because when Chase Utley was in his prime, what he used to do, he would set up a tee in the cage pregame, and he would envision in his head the pitcher, after watching film, the delivery coming home, and he would time it up and actually hit the baseball, do the act of hitting the baseball off the tee while in his head the pitcher was in his windup and in his delivery coming home. So that's how he got his timing down. I just took it a step further with the virtual reality goggles, wearing them in the cage, and then hitting the ball off the tee. Now, again, you don't actually see the baseball hitting the bat. You don't see the ball hit the bat, so you're obviously not going to. You don't see it in game. It's scientifically, as Ted Williams put it, impossible. And this would be the same case with having the goggles on. You couldn't hit off the tee.
That would be the only thing is you don't see that now. If they had a way to, because you see everything else in the VR. If you could actually see a ball sitting there, that would be cool. I know they're working on different things they can do with the VR that makes it known if you hit the ball or not.
Yeah,
like the ball that's coming at you. So there's actually a product out there that would work great for what you're saying. And we did it at Mizzou. A lot of schools do. It's called Game Sense.
Okay.
Great guy. Owner. His name's Dr. Peter Fatty. And he's a professor. Oh, if I could only remember, Purdue. I think it's somewhere in Indiana. And he came out with Game Sense Sports. And essentially, it's a pitcher throwing to you. It's the difference is it's 2-dimensional, right? It's on a screen. It's not 3-dimensional like the virtual reality, right? But you could project it onto a screen. And that pitcher's throwing at you, right? Again, 2-dimensionally throwing at you, and then you could set up the tee where you are. So you're looking out. You don't have goggles on, right? You're looking out towards the big projector screen. The guy's in his windup. You go in, and then if it's a strike, it's a pitch recognition software too, and so it tells you, it's a strike or not, right? So if it's a strike and you hit it, right, then you would swing and hit it off the tee. If it's a ball, you would just stride and take it. So there's cool ways to do it, different.
I think,
if we could mesh those two companies together, it would be amazing.
And maybe put the iron mic behind the virtual reality screen, and then, we have to put our
they have that.
We'd have to put our heads together.
Pro batter.
Yeah.
So now you got the pro batter. But you could do a pro batter with an actual pitcher instead of like a dummy pitcher. It would actually be.
So get rid of the goggles.
Kershaw.
So I was on to something. Just get rid of the goggles.
The goggles are going to make it tough to hit anything because when you're in the goggles, you're like in La La Land.
Yeah.
You're like on the dark side of the moon. You don't even know where you are. You take the goggles off and you're like, I totally forgot where I am right now. Yeah. I thought I was in. It looks like Toronto. The stadium actually is like a combination of like Toronto and Seattle.
Okay. So take off the goggles, but I was onto something there, kind of.
You're always onto something.
I was maybe reaching a little bit with the goggles, but
yeah.
I mean, I like the act of actually seeing the pitcher with a stationary ball.
You know what else you could do? Just like hit off of a pitcher.
You could, but what if that's not available?
Excuse me, can we get Clayton Kershaw's twin brother that throws exactly the same and hire him for BP? Right, let's see. What is he going to charge?
Yeah, anyway. All right, so moving on here. How do you think hitters' meetings should go at the professional level? I've seen plenty of them, but I want to see what you think about hitters' meetings at the pro level.
Yeah, hitter meetings at the pro level, need to probably be more of a the hitters themselves should do most of the work, quite honestly. Like they should go do most of the work. I think those meetings should be more advanced scout heavy. Like, hey, we saw Kershaw throw last week.
Yeah.
And his velocity was down, right? Or his breaking ball wasn't as sharp as it has been. He hasn't been throwing as many strikes lately. So I think at the professional level, it's more, how has this guy been lately? Maybe his last 2 or 3 starts, they saw him on the road and the scouts are bringing that information. So that's what I would probably stress most of my stuff on and I would still prepare them with, I would probably present all the players, and usually the video guy does this, but here's your last 4 at bats, against Kershaw, right? Because you're facing this guy. You're in the big leagues. You've already faced him multiple times.
Yeah.
Here are your last few at bats. So that's probably where I would start was here's your last few at bats. Here's what he's been doing lately. His velocity's up a little bit or it's down a little bit compared to the last time you faced him.
Yeah. What do you make of this idea now that in batting practice there are some teams that have adopted this, seeing a pitcher that throws hard and resembles big league stuff or stuff that they could be facing that night, taking that approach to BP rather than just the standard BP soft type pitching and letting guys, I guess, get loose. Because you have that opportunity to get loose now in the batting cage prior to the game, many hours prior to the game.
It's for the fans. BP on the field is for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
The guys are already loose before they head out there. They've already done their front toss. They've already done their tee work.
Yeah.
That's why they're getting certain things out of it. I'm going to hit some balls here, and then I'm going to juice balls. Because everybody loves to hit balls over the fence. I mean, don't let it fool you. Like, it's easier to hit a 60-mile-an-hour, 55-mile-an-hour pitch over the fence than a 95-mile-an-hour over the fence.
Yeah.
So, for me, development standpoint, I'd much rather see guys hit velocity out on the field. I saw something with the Dodgers. They had a big hack attack set up on the mound the other day, and they were doing their BP off of it just to get a little bit more velocity than what their guys can throw from, say, 45 feet. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, I would like to set up an environment behind closed doors, in the indoor space where guys are seeing that velocity right before the game.
Yeah.
Maybe not even hitting it, right? Just taking it. Like, I want to clone those pitches, right? We're facing, we'll use Greinke again, right? I'm gonna mimic his spin rate, and I'm gonna put this ball in the machine. I'm gonna load it up. And all I want you to do is take 20 timings. You don't have to hit any or maybe hit every third or fourth one. Just get your timing. Make sure your foot's down at the right time. Make sure you're moving at the right time. Boom. All right, let's hit the field. Let's win a ball game.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that approach and of having – and you don't even need a pitcher, an actual live pitcher to do it. I mean, I guess you prefer it, but you have the hit tracks, so that sort of helps out.
You can mimic
a lot.
You can mimic, with a Rapsodo, you can mimic, or even a portable TrackMan or FlightScope. You can mimic the pitch design.
Yeah.
You can sit there and tweak a 3-wheel hack attack or a Rawlings machine so that it's throwing 92 and it's got, vertical break of, whatever, 4 inches. It's got horizontal break of, 2 inches, whatever the specs are, and you can mimic that tunnel. Now, you don't have an arm or a motion coming at you, but that's why I said all you got to do is see it. I want you to track that ball and kind of ingrain that into your brain, that tunnel that ball is going in. So if that ball gets in that same tunnel during the game, 40 minutes later, you're going to attack it because you've seen it, 50 times in a row.
Yeah, I said hit tracks. I meant hack attack. My apologies for that.
Right,
all right.
hack attack.
Like and subscribe to the podcast. New episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. Be sure to check out our YouTube page as well. We have new episodes, archived episodes that are up there right now. The Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, our social media at Epstein Hitting, at Jim Tara, and our email as well, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Any questions, concerns, or topic ideas, we'd love to hear them. Did I miss anything before we kind of wrap up the We do have a listener question here we'll get to, but did I miss anything today that we need to touch on?
No, we talked about Angel Hernandez, so I think we got it all.
Yes. Yeah,
that was on my list. I wanted to make sure we got Angel in there.
That puts a period on everything. Angel Hernandez strike zone. Well, good. All right. So, again, this was episode number 18, our Player Development Series, Volume 2, pregame approaches, the proper pregame approaches to batting practice and getting ready for a game. We do have a question here from one of our listeners, and this comes to us from Ken, sent to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. He goes, "Hi, Jim. First off, happy birthday." Thank you, Ken. I have a stance question I wanted to send along. How does Jake feel about a player swaying in their legs prior to their load, a la Manny Ramirez in his prime? Does it hinder their rhythm? Thanks. Great show. Thank you, Ken.
I think understanding what a load is and what a stride is, is really important. They're different. A load is getting ready to stride. A load is getting you the weight into your back heel, into your back glute, so that you can pick up your front foot in a stable position and stride. The swing is the swing. The swing is who knows what was going on in Manny's head. Yeah. I bet it was some unbelievable, Latin music constantly bouncing from ear to ear, and that's what he heard in there, and he was probably just kind of moving with that beat. But no, it has to be comfortable. Yes, and I don't teach that a lot. I don't teach. I will suggest, hey, maybe try this. Let's move a little bit. Rock between your feet. Rock between your knees. Feel the weight in your feet when you're standing there.
Sure.
But I usually don't have to. I want them to use what's natural, what is in their DNA, what feels good to them. If I'm telling them to do something before they even load, that's probably going to be way too many thoughts,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I want you to think about, whatever, dancing here, and then, sitting into your back leg and then striding. Oh my gosh, their head might explode. So I try not to touch that too much. Now, if they're, just the way they're swaying or standing there or just, getting ready to load, if that's hindering the actual load, hindering them getting weight into their back foot, then yeah, I'll probably make suggestions and how to do that. But really, the best way, turn the music on really loud, something with a beat, and just kind of see what that player is doing, and have them say. And what I would tell them is, I need you to go early and slow. I need you to start moving early, get into your back foot early, and I need you to stride as slow as you possibly can. Can you control that rhythm? And then let's see what happens before that.
All right, well, thank you, Ken, for the question. Next week, and again, all your questions submitted to us, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Next week, we're going to discuss linear against rotational hitting, a long-form debate that has been talked about for many, many years.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. That's like, we could also talk about Democrats and Republicans and probably have like the same conversation. But we're going to blend it all. We'll blend it all together.
That'll really get the emails coming in if we discuss if we blend into politics.
Oh Lord, we won't do that. Don't worry.
Yeah, so we will be discussing linear against rotational hitting next week. That'll be a lot of fun. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.